All right, we're doing something a little bit new here, a little bit of an experiment. Paul Fontaine, you all know him. He writes a ratings article every week on fightgamemedia.com. It usually comes out Thursday evening after he gets the Dynamite number. It has ratings for Dynamite. He talks about NXT, Raw, Smackdown, and now we have Rampage. So we're going to try and do a little bit of supplemental ratings data here with this show. It's going to be a little quick show, but I'm going to ask Paul about some ratings and just any trends that he's seeing, and we'll look at how Rampage did. I'm very interested in how Paul thinks Rampage is going to do tomorrow. So let's kick it off. So Paul, before we get into this, why the interest in pro wrestling TV ratings? What got you into being so clued into this stuff?
Wow. I honestly don't know. I mean, I think it started actually with MMA and pay-per-view buy rates. And then I
Your
just
old
kind of,
website.
yeah. But even before that, I was, really following a lot of what Dave was doing and looking at the numbers and trying to figure out trends. And I got really involved on the F4W message board and looking at the stuff that people were posting there and posting my own stuff and getting interest and just looking at trends and trying to figure out things that other people weren't seeing. And so I think I've got a bit of a niche for doing that stuff like that. It's harder now because there's so many people out there doing it. And honestly, there's a lot of people, that have more time on their hands than I do and are really talented, guys like Brandon Thurston, like really invaluable for me and what I do. So, and Big Dave, of course, and I help him out too. So, it's a bit of scratching each other's back, but I just like numbers too.
Where are you getting all of this data? Like the quarter hours, and you do some stuff. The
Yeah.
reason why this is called ratings extras, because every week you talk about the ratings, then you have like a little insight into something that maybe people aren't really paying attention to. But like, where do you get that? Because I know you're not subscribed to any services, but is it Observer? Is it Brandon? Like, where does that stuff come from?
Well, exactly what you said. So Dave has that in the Observer every week. Brandon usually puts something out right away. Like, I don't know how he gets it so quick, but and he puts it all together. So I'm kind of analyzing both and looking at it. And then so when I'm doing the segment by segment data, I'm using like people that were featured in each thing, and I'm using what Dave said, and I'm using what Brandon said. I'm using my own memory, to like piece together the different segments. So there's maybe a little bit of I don't know what the word is, like my own insight into what might have drawn and what might have not have drawn, but I'm trying to take that out of it as well. So if somebody happens to be appearing in all these segments that are doing good numbers, even despite what I think, maybe they're a draw. And like that's where like somebody like Dexter Loomis came up, like his name, he's just drawing numbers, and I don't know why, I don't get it, but maybe that's the reason why he's pushed so much, or maybe it's just a fluke, like who knows.
Okay, so for this week, what was the big story of the week?
Well, I mean, I think the big story was Rampage debuting, and doing 45% higher than what Dynamite had done in the same time slot, as you can see on the screen there. In the average for the 4 weeks that they were on Friday was 509,000, and they did 740,000, so that's 45% higher. And look at the 1849 numbers, like the highest they did was, I mean, it's pretty consistent, 0.19, 0.2, and they did a 0.31. So, I mean, some people might say, oh, well, yeah, Dynamite was 2 hours. This was only 1 hour. But, I mean, that's a big difference. And when I really looked at the demos, and it shouldn't be surprising, the number where Rampage actually beat Dynamite was with teenagers, and specifically teenage boys. So if you think about it, like they draw a younger audience, but that younger audience might be going out on Friday nights, but the teenagers probably aren't. So, what are you going to watch? Think about it. When you were a teenager, if there was a cool wrestling show like this on Friday night at 9 o'clock, like you're watching every week. So I think for that kind of audience, like this is a perfect time slot. Because they don't have to worry about getting up for school the next day, none of that, right? So yeah, so I mean that doesn't surprise me, but it did surprise me that they did this well. Now again, the debut episode of Dynamite did 1.6 million, so we'll see how they hold up. And they had 3 title matches and all the big stars, but got a pretty big star supposed to debut this week, so we'll see what happens. But I think it was a great sign because I was kind of expecting, maybe 650 and maybe like a 0.25, and then settling in around maybe like 550 and a 0.2, like a little bit higher on the overall audience, but about the same demo as what they were doing in June and late May. But yeah, this is a good sign. But I do wonder too if it might have hurt Dynamite a little bit, because they had a loaded up show this week and they did the exact same number they did last week. So, maybe 3 hours is too much for some people.
Possibly. I think what's going to happen is on the non-newsworthy rampages, I'm probably watching Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, I'll watch. Yeah. I mean, it'll be like within 24 hours, but probably not within, live like I did this week.
Okay, so one of the fun things about the ratings when AEW and NXT were going head-to-head was comparing. They are no longer head-to-head, but I still sort of look at them in close comparison. And so you have the numbers here for AEW and NXT, and we have, like you said, pretty similar, almost exact similar number for AEW as from the week prior for what was a little bit more of a hyped up show. But NXT, man, for the go home show to TakeOver, they really fell.
I'll just note one thing. If people are looking at this, you'll note that on the left, these are only the Dynamites that aired on Wednesdays. So there's a gap there when they moved. So I'm only comparing Wednesday nights because I feel that's a more fair comparison. And whereas with NXT, I could have done the same thing with the two shows that were moved to Sci-Fi, which were July 27th and August 3rd. But I just left them in there because it's only 2 weeks and it doesn't really skew the data that much. But you can see like the two numbers, like NXT is actually right on its 10-week average, but they were way down from the week before. And I guess I was just listening to, because I'm in Canada, right? So I don't always know what's going on, like, outside of like the big stuff. And apparently it was a big news day on Tuesday. So the news probably hurt NXT a lot, kind of like what was happening in January and February, and, all through the pandemic as well. And again, that may have hurt AEW as well. Maybe that's why they didn't break 1 million this week. They had that 4 straight weeks of over 1 million viewers. I mean, and then people look at that and it's a nice, sexy number, 1 million, but 980,000 is pretty close to 1 million.
Yeah.
It's the 0.35 that is probably a little bit concerning, and that's, I think, probably due to like the challenge starting last week. And
you compare the number, the last two numbers to June 30th, the same 18 to 49, but the viewership is down by 90,000 or something.
And if you looked at the, and I didn't look at it real close this week, but when I looked at August 4th to August 11th, if you take out 18 to 49, the actual viewership was actually higher for the August 11th show than it was for August 4th. So it was all 18 to 49 where they dropped. And then you look at the challenge, and they have something like 75% of their audience is 18 to 49. It's just insane, like the way they pull those numbers in that demo. So, they're obviously hurting AEW. But 0.35 is, I mean, that's about what they were expecting, I think, when they got that extension. So if they can maintain that, or maybe even go a little bit above that, I think they're doing fine. And TNT's real happy.
And you mentioned the challenge, and I got a note, or somebody tagged me in a tweet by an account that covers the challenge on Twitter. Now, I don't know, I don't have a way to verify this data, but they said that the first 2 episodes of the most recent season have been the lowest rated episodes in 10 seasons over the past 6 years. So a big decrease in ratings, especially from the most recent season. So that's actually pretty interesting. And I actually have a theory. And the theory is that they're at a little bit of a crossroads, when we talk about what draws in pro wrestling or in MMA, stars draw. And they are, a lot of their stars are a little bit long in the tooth. They're not playing every season anymore. They're, the big name that a lot of people who may not follow the challenge may know is Johnny Bananas, and he's not doing it. He hasn't done it the last 2 seasons. So they're at a little bit of a crossroads because they need to create new stars at the same time. And so I think that's what this season, especially for the challenge, is like, they're trying to create some new stars to replace some of the folks who aren't playing as much as they used to. So that's my theory. I don't know exactly, but just based on me watching.
That sounds like a certain company in Stanford that is a part of this discussion that we're having.
But I like that you mentioned the challenge, because we are.
It's my dog.
Is this Wrestling Observer Radio? What's going on?
Yeah. My dogs never bark.
we don't worry about it. We can talk over it.
Right.
The interesting thing is, I just started doing challenge recaps on the website, and then I do a short video recap of the challenge. So that's why I always think the challenge kind of fits into some of the stuff that we do, because it's very relatable, and it's part of Wednesday now, and so it's kind of cool to talk about. But yeah, so let's look at the rest of the ratings here. So you have the graph or the columns of AEW, NXT, Raw, and SmackDown. At some point in the next couple months, you'll probably add a Rampage column here. But interesting thing about Raw is the viewership was clearly up, as was the demo. So there was some talk about, when's AEW going to catch them in the 18 to 49? Not anytime soon if they're going to be doing 0.55s.
Yeah, I mean, look at like July 28th, 0.45 to 0.49, and now it's like 0.35 to 0.55. So, there's been a shift there. And I was looking today, and I just noticed a stat about the Raw viewership that kind of blew my mind. They've had 6 straight weeks now, and that includes the week before they moved to live fans, where they've had year-over-year increase. And the last time that Raw had 6 straight weeks of year-over-year increases was 2014. That's 7 years ago. Yeah. So they're hot right now, like whether or not you like it or I like it, or, like people on our website like it, like they're hot, whatever that is, it's the return to fans. It's some of these characters are over. It's, it's the build to SummerSlam, whatever it is. And you're also comparing year over year with the period right before they moved into the Thunderdome when things were bottoming out. Mm-hmm. So, there is that. But still, this is going to be in the investors' call, but yeah, I just thought that was really notable.
The SmackDown number, going back to earlier in the summer, doing 0.5, 0.48, but now they're back up closer to 0.6, really high 0.5s and 0.6. Is that all just because of the fans being in attendance?
Well, I think so. I mean, if you look at the last week before fans, it was 0.48, and they haven't been below 0.55 since then. And, similar with Raw, they're hovering 0.43, 0.41, and now they've been over 0.49 every week. So, I mean, that is clearly fans. And, I mean, you watch the show, and it's a huge difference, watching the shows. And whereas NXT, and I mentioned this to you off air, and I was going to bring it up. When you look at their year-over-years, like a lot of it's been hidden right now because you're comparing weeks where AEW and NXT were on the same night. So the year-over-year numbers look better for NXT. But this week, AEW last year was moved because of the NBA playoffs, you'll remember, for 4 straight weeks in August and September. And this was the first week of that. So NXT was actually had the night to themselves. And they're down year-over-year over 20% in viewership and 37% in the demo.
Wow.
And yeah, so I mean, I think that's telling. And everyone else is up year-over-year. And in some cases, significant. Like AEW's double-digit increases in both categories year over year. Now, again, they were competing against NXT, so that was splitting the audience a little bit. But they're still like way up, and NXT is way down. And Raw and SmackDown are both up. So that's and if you think about it, NXT is not nearly as important now as it was a year ago.
And you have the boss basically telling the fan base that too at the same time.
Exactly.
Just so, openly.
Yeah, I mean, last week was an aberration, I think. That 700, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just all the buzz about all the cuts, and people wanted to see what was going to happen, and, who knows. But,
all right, so looking ahead to Friday, we have Rampage. Do you expect them to increase the 740,000 number and the 0.31?
I think no, but I think they're going to be close. I'm being conservative. I think you would think, okay, if they had advertised CM Punk, then yeah. but they didn't. But then enough of their people know that I don't think it's going to drop significantly, and I think it would have dropped significantly if not for the tease of CM Punk.
Especially with those matches.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, you look at that. Basically, it's 3 enhancement matches almost. 2 for sure. 2 of the 3. I don't even remember the third one. I do know. I remember Jade's match, and I remember Moxley's. Yeah, Moxley against Garcia. I mean, it was literally
one of the tag team tournament matches,
right? Private Party and the Lucha Brothers, or the Jurassic Express, right?
Jurassic Express,
or the Lucha Bros. No, it's the Lucha Bros.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be like last week. Like that'll be like half the show, and then they'll have probably a quick women's match, and then I'm thinking a quick main event, but then a big angle at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to do the angle at the end to keep the fans, because anybody that's tuning in, you're going to hear those CM Punk chants all night. You're tuning in to see CM Punk. You're going to be waiting for CM Punk, so they can't put him out at the beginning, and then everyone's going to tune out. So I mean, if we don't, we better get CM Punk at the end of this show, or people are going to be real mad.
I think
maybe shows up in Phoenix on WWE. The name on the contract says Khan, but it's not Tony Khan.
It's the name on the contract is CON if CM Punk doesn't show up.
Yeah.
So we'll look forward to this. So also, people who are watching this before Rampage, we're going to be live right after Rampage. Paul's going to be back, myself and Parker Klein, and we're going to do a live stream about all the happenings that happen at AEW Rampage, the first dance. So, Paul, thanks for doing this. We'll see about doing this regularly. I think this is really interesting. And if we see that people enjoy and they're looking for information on ratings, then we can continue to do this as long as you are available. But check out fightgamemedia.com, because Paul's articles, his ratings articles with more detail, obviously, because he's writing a lot, is going to be there. And then this is sort of the supplemental piece to this. So if people enjoy this, we can keep doing them. Paul, thanks again. For Paul, I'm Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.